Hey everyone, this is the Mana Source, my name is Wedge, and welcome to this week's tournament report. After having a week off, we're back in action with two major standard events from the weekend. Wizards ran a Grand Prix in Kitakyushu, Japan, while the Star City series came to Baltimore, Maryland. As usual, we'll be looking at the top 8 decks from each event. And hey, it looks like we'll get to talk about decks other than Jund or green-red aggro this week. As that last remark might have hinted at, Standard has diversified by leaps and bounds since the big events 2 weeks ago. Jund and green-red aggro decks are still present, but only showing up in a couple places each, occupying far less space than before. So let's jump in and start looking at these decks. One of this weekend's big winners was Bant Hexproof. Raymond Tan rode the deck to victory in the Grand Prix against Koichi Kudo, who took second. An additional Hexproof list took third place in the same event. Not much has changed for the deck. What's more, even with only 2 representatives, the deck still showed 2 distinct variations. The winning list ran a typical creature base with Simic Charm and a Johnny Caller of Pride as supporting non-creature spells. The third place deck instead added Voice of Resurgence to the creature package, and ran Increasing Savagery as its 5th non-creature spell beyond the usual array of enchantments. The other event-winning list was Mono Red Aggro, which won the Star City Open under the command of Joseph Herrera. The deck was a little different than we've seen from Mono Red to date. Instead of lightning-fast creatures, we see Ash Zealot as the only one below 3 mana, and Boros Reckoner as a new threat. The deck runs a full set of Burning Earth in the main deck, clearly a wise choice given the circumstances. Additionally, we see Brimstone Volley as a 3-of instead of, say, Shock. Other interesting changes include the addition of Chandra Pyromaster to the main deck, and increasing the land base to 25 to accommodate the more expensive cards. Second place in the GP went to Koichi Kudo, who ran a green-red aggro list. Another green-red aggro list took 8th in the same event. This deck looks pretty much like what we've seen, though interestingly, both lists drop Burning Tree Emissary. Also, the 8th place list cut some of their Mizia Mortars for a few Volcanic Strength. Meanwhile, second place in the Star City Open was taken by Charles Johnson by way of a Junk Aristocrats deck. While this was the only Junk Aristocrats deck this weekend, we did see 2 similar decks. Rock Tokens took 7th in the GP, and a white-black-red deck, simply called the Aristocrats, placed 4th at the SCG Open. The Junk Aristocrats list looked pretty normal, with Blood Artist to make Aristocrat sacrifices worthwhile, and plenty of token generators. We also saw the addition of Scavenging Ooze and Obsidic Ghost Council. Meanwhile, the Tokens deck from the GP ran black exclusively for Tragic Slip and Sorin Lord of Innistrad. With its Selesnya basis, the deck ran Advent of the Worm, Call of the Conclave, Scion of Vidu-Ghazi, and Intangible Virtue to power them all up. Finally, the white-black-red list ran even more sack outlets, adding Falconwrath Aristocrat as a powerful attacker. It also added more death triggers, with Zathra Necromancer to replace the dead, and Skursdag High Priest to make more tokens. Mark of Mutiny made a clever sideboard card when you can so easily get rid of the creature you just stole. Moving down the list, we saw a Naya aggro deck take 4th at the GP. This deck basically combines green-red staples with white staples to make a big, scary creature base. If you thought Thundermaw Hellkite and Voice of Resurgence were frightening enough in different lists, just imagine them in the same deck. The relatively small non-creature spell base mostly ran Burn for its adaptability between removal and finisher roles. Searing Spear and Warleader's Helix proved powerful enough to push the deck to victory. The only deck to appear in both events was Black-Green Midrange, taking 5th in the GP and 8th in the Star City Open. Neither list really showed anything we haven't seen before. The combination of Thragtusk and Desecration Demon makes for a tough creature base, backed up by varied removal like Abrupt Decay, Doomblade, and Putrefy. 3 blue-white decks representing 2 different archetypes showed up over the weekend. The control decks that finished 5th and 7th in the Star City Open both added Rewind, and one of them also ran a Planar Cleansing but no Detention Spheres. The blue-white deck from the GP in 6th place was a much bigger surprise. It was a Delver deck. We haven't seen Delver of Secrets in about a year, since Ponder rotated out, but this deck proved the list is still viable even if you can't guarantee a flip Delver on turn 3. The creature base consisted of the Delver, Geist of Sainttraft, Restoration Angel, and Snapcaster Mage, just as it used to. The non-creature spells were counters and a few cantrips, plus some creature hate like Azorius Charm and Unsummon. Surprisingly, the deck's other cantrip, beyond Thought Scour, was a 2 of Quicken, in spite of the deck's lack of sorceries. Lastly, we saw the once dominant Jund midrange take 3rd and 6th at the Star City Open. It's still a powerful deck, clearly. Maybe people just got tired of playing it. Though there were some slight variations between the lists, there wasn't really anything new. Olivia, Thragtusk, and Huntmaster are still dudes. Until rotation at least. And that about wraps up our top 8s. To think this time 2 weeks ago we were worried about Standard converging on Jund and Green-Red aggro, and now we're seeing the most diverse tournament results we've seen in a long time. Subscribe below for all of the latest tournament information and updated decks you could ever need. Remember, if you're curious about any of the decks from the weekend, we have a deck tech for some of them. And if we don't have a deck tech yet, let us know you want one. Next weekend, the only Grand Prix is an M14 limited tournament in Prague. However, we will be covering the Standard Star City Open in Cincinnati, Ohio. Also be sure to check out our subscriber appreciation series where we open packs and give away everything. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.